All right, guys. So I am on my way to a meeting. I don't have time for any fancy setup, nothing. I'm just shooting this off my phone in the car. So if it's a little shaky, sorry. I just kind of wanted to get something off my mind. Just go for a little bit of a rant on the info space specifically. Oh, first things first. Hope you're having a big day. I just see so much BS in the info space. And the worst part of it is a lot of it is BS that people don't realize is BS or basically just terrible information. And then the next generation of info people will learn from the generation above them, not realizing the generation above them literally failed at the business ball work. Once again, I guess it just depends where your definition of success is. A few things I want to touch on. Number one, can we stop talking about revenue, please? Like, am I the only one that has known for I've been in the info space for 6 years now, 7 years, something like that. Am I the only one who realized from day one, like, revenue doesn't matter? I hear these info guys and they'll be like, yeah, we're doing $1 million a month. Okay, what's your profit? 50% margins, 40% margins. So you're not doing $1 million a month, you're doing 400K or 500K a month profit. Like, what does your revenue have to do with anything? I'd understand at a software company, or for example, one of my physical product brands, like one of my physical product brands, or for example, one of my software companies, I would get it if they told me revenue and how that revenue can then get reinvested back into better developers or get reinvested back into such, like, revenue is a barometer that makes sense in those businesses. In the info business, the only thing that matters is profit. That's the only thing that matters, because revenue doesn't make the company more valuable, because I hate to say it, I don't know if like no one realizes this, you're not going to sell your info business. That's just the truth of it. Because to make a sellable asset, bear in mind, I have something called Digital Launchpad. Now, Digital Launchpad makes hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in MRR. Very difficult business, by the way. A recurring info MRR, I would not recommend it. That's just the truth of it. And in fact, I was sitting with, I don't want to say a friend, but an acquaintance that one of my good friends introduced me to. This gentleman does 1.4 billion a year in education, or at least his holding company does. And most of that money is made in like traditional universities. So where we had a little meeting, played some tennis. Tennis is a great way to actually do business. Beforehand, I'll always have a coffee for an hour, and then from there we'll play an hour of tennis. Anyways, all that to say that he does 1.4 billion a year, and they do, from 1.4 billion, they do 250 million in EBITDA. And once again, that's all from licensing. So like their educational institutions are licensing out. In fact, the meeting that I'm going to right now is a multi-billion dollar company here in the UAE who actually wants to license DL. I'm gonna tell them to us. I don't think it's gonna really make sense, because they give that to their employees, and now all of a sudden they're gonna all want to be entrepreneurs and stuff like that. But still, nonetheless, it's very flattering, and it's cool to have a company that's, not even multi, like in the tens of billions. I was speaking to this gentleman, and he got into the online e-learning space. I actually bought like an e-learning company, and I said, wait, before you tell me, let me guess what your numbers are. You have average 4-month retention. He goes, yeah, it's 4.5 months, but correct. I say, you still can't acquire customers a profit, but he says yes. So I ticked off all these metrics in his business. I said, your refund rate is this, your LTV, your churn is this, your upsell on the yearly plan is this number. Every single number I said, he was like, how'd you know? I said, listen, I guess I never expected to when I was younger. If you told me, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wouldn't have thought, like, probably the number one expert in the world when it comes to info. When it comes to low ticket MR, mid ticket, high ticket, we've done it all. And in fact, that's what a lot of my software companies do to this day. And I'm going to reveal more and more of my companies throughout the year, just because I've always been very cool just kind of playing dumb, and very cool just like showing only what I need to show. I don't feel like I need to tell everyone all my businesses. But this year, I'm going to be a little bit more forthcoming with it. Anyways, all that to say that low ticket MR, I would 100% stay away from. So that's just a little side tangent. But going back to main point.
All right, so listen, super quick intermission. We're going to get back to my rant in just a second. But I know I'm kind of like hitting on many different points, and I'm quite frankly just going on a rant and giving you my high level business perspective coming from someone who has physical product brands, software businesses, has made $100 million with info, as well as invests in 2 to 4 companies a month. Like, I have such a unique perspective on all this stuff. And if you want to know how to win this info game, for the first time ever, I'm doing a 5-day live event. This is the first live event I've ever done in my entire life. And this live event, I'm actually gonna show you how to implement a lot of stuff that I've talked about here in today's video. Now, if you are currently making less than $250,000 a year in your info business, your e-com business, your software business, whatever kind of online business you have, because remember, of course, I've killed it in the info space, but even my smallest business at the moment, this, which is my eyewear brand, it still makes me a couple million a year in profit, and we're scaling that 5x in 2025. So if you wanna come to this live event, it is paid. If you find that offensive, then just keep watching the free content. If you're making less than $250,000 a year, this event isn't for you anyways, because a lot of advice is just gonna be very confusing. So I know a lot of you guys will be watching this video and nodding your head and going, okay, this actually makes sense. Like, this is a person who's speaking sense about how to win in this info game. And not only just info, but all other verticals as well. So if you're watching this, you want to attend my 5-day live event, I'm going to go ahead and leave the link in the description. I also have a guest speaker on day 5. It's one of my dear friends, a guy called Dan Henry. He's actually made $30 million in info in a very different way than I have. And I've brought him along to validate all the things that I'm telling you here because he's experienced it himself with a very small audience, just to show you that what I'm teaching you here, you don't need to be super famous in order to accomplish these results. So with all that being said, check it out below and let's get back to this video.
What makes an asset sellable is number one, that you are not part of the service delivery. Imagine like they tried to buy Taylor Swift, but she wanted to sell Taylor Swift her, but then also not have to be involved in the delivery. It just doesn't make sense. So the thing is, people are buying your info product because of you, okay? You are the business. That's just the truth of it. Now, you're the most profitable business ever. Info businesses are incredibly profitable, but you are the business, okay? So either you remove yourself from the service delivery. Now, that's what I've done with Digital Launchpad, okay? I don't teach any of the programs inside Digital Launchpad. Literally none of them. I guess there was 3 modules that I taught, but just to prove the point, I actually even removed those modules from Digital Launchpad because I wanted to be able to say I have zero involvement in Digital Launchpad. It's all taught by other people. Basically masterclass style. Now, if you take our MR, that very easy, especially because we own the IP. Now, if you look at something like Masterclass, they're doing about 80 million in revenue and they're worth about $2.7 billion. Now, the main reason why is because they own the IP. So all the programs are inside. It's not just like the e-learning software tech side of things. It's the fact they own the IP. Now, bear in mind, we have the exact same structure with Digital Launchpad. We own the IP to all of the programs inside there, and that's very valuable. So all that to say, like, I'm not going to apply those sort of multiples, but even being very conservative, you could say, okay, well, DL at its current MRR is worth 100 million. I could sit here and be, yeah, DL is worth $100 million. No, it's not. You know why it's not worth 100 million? Because my face is still involved in 70 to 80% of customer acquisition. We have not been able to get ads to be profitable without using my face personally. And that's basically the dichotomy of an info business. It's like, the reason I bring up my friend who does 1.4 billion in his education holding company, he bought this online e-learning. He's like, oh, e-learning is the boom, this, that, and he still can't make it profitable. Even Masterclass, they're still not profitable. In their own words, we're aiming for self-sustainability, which means we're not even profitable. And they've had $491 million in investment. And I think the fact of the matter is people need to understand that in info, people are buying for you. That's just the truth of it. People are buying for you. So you're not going to sell your info business. So hopefully that's one belief that you have cracked. Now, there's been a couple examples in the past, and listen, a lot of these people I like genuinely, like, I think they're amazing. I like them. I know what goes on behind the scenes. I know the actual deals, the structures, this, that. In fact, some of the deals I've even been involved advising the sale. And I can tell you whatever number they claim, they receive 10 to 20% in cash and the rest, and like just being honest, like bullshit or an alps. So please coming from me, because I could sit here and try to like brag or be on some ego flex that, yeah, a DL is worth $100 million. It's like, I want to be honest with you guys. I just think the info space is full of so much just BS and just like misunderstandings. That's one of the things I want to do with this channel is I just want to break through some of those misunderstandings. You're not going to sell your info business. Now listen, if DL, I was involved in, for example, 10 to 20% of customer acquisition, as in 10 to 20% of customers only came in through me using my face, that becomes a sellable asset. Now there's still a lot of risks involved there because the issue with info businesses, they're high churn. Either it's one ticket, so the LTV, there's not too much you can do on the LTV, or they're high churn if it's MR, an MR model. By the way, just so you understand why low ticket info at MR doesn't work is because, and bear in mind, this is coming from someone who, like, our average retention at a DL is 6 months, which is very, very good when you're dealing with a true, like, very low ticket B2C audience. Our average LTV is $222. Our day one cash collected, I believe, is $67 because I think it's 12%. These are like the latest numbers that I can remember, at least. It might be off by like 1 or 2%, okay? So, don't 100% quote me on this, but our day one cash grant is $67 because it's $37, and then I believe 12% of people go for the upsell for the year or decide to go for the yearly plan. Obviously, the yearly plan is a 40% discount, but obviously that stretches our day one cash grant. Anyways, all that to say, to advertise to a cold audience without using my face, okay? Without using my face, it's very, very difficult in today's climate to get customers for $67. Very, very difficult. Once again, remember, without using my face, because that's the only thing that's going to make a sellable asset. So the options are here is, do we make it a profitable business, a great cash cow profitable business, use my face, but it's not a sellable asset? Or do we try to play this weird thing that I've never seen it work? Like, once again, Masterclass is a perfect example. They've had 460, but in that almost $500 million in funding, the biggest names in the world, 80 million in revenue, and they still can't even reach self-sustainability, aka they still can't even turn a profit. Listen, your whole idea of, okay, I'm gonna sell my info business, just get that out of your head, please, because as I said, there's been some people who have claimed it, but if you actually knew what went on behind the scenes, once again, absolutely no shade to any of these people. I have respect, I have love for these people. It's just, I don't want you to pursue a life, and this goes back to, I guess, the main topic of the video that I want to talk about, like this revenue thing. The first time I really got so pissed was when I found out that pretty much the number one thought leader in the space in 2018 made 36 million in revenue and 1 million in profit. When I found that out, I actually felt a little violated because that was the only mastermind I've ever been to in my life. I think that was very important for me because that was when, in 2018, was when I I had no interest in the digital marketing world. Like, I'm sure if you guys know me, I don't hang out with info marketers. I don't do these things because I realized like I want to go learn actual real business. And I know that sounds crazy to some people. I see these like info marketers, and I think you just need to understand your blessing and your privilege. Now, here's the difference. In the first 3 years, it's a 2 out of 10 difficulty business. Now, I'm on year 6. We just closed off 2024. We were up in revenue and profit. It was 10 to 12% compared to 2023. Not a crazy year, but pretty much everyone I know who's been doing info for a long time, they were all down in 2024. As far as I know, we're the only people who still managed to increase in revenue and profit in 2024 compared to 2023, and 2025 is going to be a whole different league, a whole different story. Like, it's baked in. This year, at minimum 30% increase in profit. So anyways, all that to say that I just remember like hearing like, wait, I don't understand. Why would you spend 30 million to bring 30 million back? And I get it, they're thinking, okay, I spent 30 million to bring 30 million back, and then my higher ticket thing, I'm gonna get some bleed through, but it's like you have swanky offices, you have US based employees, you have all this stuff, and people would put this guy up as like this beacon of success. And I was just like, I genuinely felt like it was so wrong because I just saw so many people model their shit off of it. And now it's like, there's this next generation of info marketers that base their stuff off this wrong thinking. That's all it is. It's just wrong thinking. They base their stuff, what they teach, off wrong thinking. It's like, my guy, just talking profit. Like, why are you talking revenue? Because the thing is, it's not even like revenue makes the experience better for your customers. The more revenue you have, the more customers you have, the more customers you have. It's not like this flywheel effect with like Uber or Airbnb where, you know, the more listings, the better. It's not like it creates a positive flywheel in terms of a customer experience perspective. Revenue isn't a good KPI for anything. As I said, in software businesses or physical product businesses, I feel like it's a relevant KPI, but for info businesses, why are you talking in revenue? And I think next time you see these people who talk about their revenue number, just ask, what's your profit? Because by the way, I talk in profit. I never tell you guys my revenue because it doesn't matter. Now, bear in mind, in that example where I said 2024, our revenue and our profit was both up about 12%. I just thought that might be interesting. You know, maybe I'll tell you my revenue, but I'll tell you my profit as well. Okay. And like, I'll always be very forthcoming with my profit, and I'll lead with my profit. And that's why I genuinely say I really don't know many other businesses except for us that make actual 8 figures a year in profit. I really don't know any. And the funny thing is as well is I spend a couple hours, maybe 1 or 2 hours a day on my info business. Honestly, I'm focused on my bigger plays. And I think that's the other thing that I really want to make clear is info, you have to understand your blessing with info. Info is the easiest business. I genuinely, hand on heart, listen, I've been involved in many businesses now. I have software companies, I have physical product businesses, I have consumable brand businesses, beverage businesses. As I said, in 2025, I'm going to be a little bit more open about the other companies that I have and I invest in. And I'll always tell you if I'm like a majority owner or whatever, just an investor, right? All that to say that even businesses I'm an investor in and I only have whatever, a couple percentage points in it. Obviously, I still know the back end of the businesses and I receive my investor reports. I can see the model, right? And I can tell you hand on heart, info is the easiest business on earth for the first 3 years. But it's interesting. Let's say Eyewear, for example, last year in 2024, we closed off at about a couple million in profit. E-com's another area where it's just like, if you actually knew that a lot of these e-com guys makes 30 million in revenue and a lot of months they run at a loss just for there's screenshots, like, once again, there's just so much BS in that space as well. Like, that's another one where I just find the whole thing so unethical. But whatever, that's a discussion for another day. Gadzhi did about 2.5 to 2.8 million in revenue, and we closed off just under 2 million in profit. Now, bear in mind, because we spent like 30 grand on ads, right? For me, it's just a fun little side business. I mean, it makes great money, almost 2 million a year in profit. It's a great business, of course, but it's my smallest business. So all that to say, if you compare physical product brands, it's really difficult at the beginning. And then after 5 years, because I have so many of my friends who make 40, 50 million in e-commerce, that's a very doable range. Now, bear in mind, once again, their EBITDA is at that range about usually 18 to 20%. So let's say a physical product business or e-commerce business is doing about 40 million a year. Their EBITDA will be about 8 to 10 million. From that, obviously, they have to keep huge cash reserves just in case you get, I've had this, for example, I've had my stock held in customs for 4 months before during COVID times. And obviously for me, it was fortunate because this isn't my main business. So I wasn't worried, but like if that's your livelihood, that's your main business, man, there's a lot of very, very stressful situations that can come from physical product brands. I mean, we even had it with Big Day. I mean, we had a lot of issues the first 3 to 5 months getting it listed on Amazon because it was a very unique product category, at least the first product we had. That one, not the, for example, this is our pre-workout. Pre-workout, easy. It's a very easy product category to understand. But anyways, the main point that I'm trying to get across here with this is like these businesses or even for software companies, it sucks. The first 2 to 3 years sucks. With physical product brands, with a software business, those are really tough times. But after 5, 8 years, if you build something correct, you can kind of kick your feet up. Listen, I don't mean like fully remove yourself from business, but it's businesses that get easier over time the bigger you get. Whereas info, it's this funny business where like it's really easy the first few years and then it just gets harder and harder. The reason why is because people always want the fresh thing in the market. They always want the new bum method, which is just like the old thing repackaged. And obviously it's just face fatigue. Like that's just the God's honest truth is like at a certain point, it fatigues. And I think when I see these info business people, they'll spend like 14 hours a day on their info business to make like 3 million profit, which once again, like 3 million is a great amount of money, but like I think they've like delusioned themselves into thinking they've built this massive empire and this and that. And I'm like, my guy, you host your on school. Like, stop sitting here pretending like I could sit here and holier than thou and be like, okay, we have a custom mobile app, we have a custom desktop. For example, in Digital Launchpad, we release a new program in there every single month, every 2 months latest. You know how hard it is to travel the world with Red Raptors, pay all these licensing fees, pay all these speaker fees to the best experts in the world. Like this month, we just released a boxing program. Like we have the #1 top boxing personality in the world, Tony Jeffries, with 2 million subscribers, and we've got him on there teaching boxing. Like to me, I could sit here and be like, this is a massive operation, but like, you know, you got these info business guys, and I still spend only 1 to 2 hours a day on that business. The reason why is because I understand that's not a $500 million play, and that's the truth of it. With info, you get in, you make great cash flow, and just accept the great cash flow. But in my opinion, I'm just in the game of empire building, okay? And if you want to come in, make your cash flow, I just think the way to win in info is get to 10 million liquid, okay? So by the way, liquid to me also just means like obviously stocks. To me, liquid, your liquid net worth is like if you had to fire sale everything by the end of the week, even properties, they say properties are liquid. Trust me, if I made some calls to my friends and I said, all my properties, I'm going to give to you for a 30%, 35% discount, you'll get the money by the end of the week. Trust me. Now, my companies, that's a very different story, okay? And that's also why when I take my net worth, my liquid net worth, I don't include my companies. Because once again, even going back to Digital Launchpad example, it's like, okay, it's a very strong case to be made that it's 100 million, but then if you look at another metric, which is, and that's with low multiples, by the way, if you compare it to something like Masterclass, but then on the flip side, it's like, well, yeah, I'm still bringing 80% of the customers through my face. So then is there any value? Is the value maybe not 100 mil, but is it 30 mil? Who knows? You know, so I think the name of the game with info, get to 10 million in the bank, or 10 million, I should say, liquid, aka whatever your assets are that you could sell within 7 days and have 10 million left over. So for example, even cars, you know, cars, watches, this car, yeah, if I want to sell by the end of the week, I might need to, because it's a one-of-one Maybach spec here in the UAE. So of course I might take a hit on it. The watch, I might take a hit on it. So, you know, whatever the cars are, or whatever the watch current market valuation, I just knock off 30% as a fire sale price, and that still is your liquid net worth. So I think you need to get to 10 million liquid net worth, and that should be the name of the game with info. And after that, you basically decide, am I gonna relax? Am I gonna chill? Am I gonna live off? I work off 4%, 2% to adjust for inflation, 2% to portfolio growth. Bear in mind, obviously you're not gonna get 80% every single year, but also like I look at my stock portfolio. I mean, at some point I was up. I invested at a heavy dip in November 23 or October 23. At some point I was up like 40% on my stock portfolio. I think I invested a lot. I think I invested so much money when it was at like 4,300. Now it's back to 5,800 now. It was touching 6K at some point. So whatever, like point is I was up like 35, 40% on my stock portfolio. Obviously that's not normal, okay? But obviously there's years where there's drawdowns. So you average out 8%. So I take 4% to live off, 2% for a margin of safety, 2% for inflation. Point is you get to 10 million semi-liquid, you got 400K a year you can live off. For most people, 30K a month, you're gonna live a great life. You're not gonna be balling, but you live a great life. And then you just decide. And the truth of the matter is, here's the beautiful thing. You pick whatever life you want. For me, I got to that number at the age of 21. And I will be honest, there was a specific period, it was April 2021, where I genuinely considered, I was like, am I gonna retire? Like I had that thought, like, and I was really deep into it for a month, and then the crypto markets crashed. So I was like, yeah, so I guess I can't do that. And then obviously, then I held, and then obviously they recovered by the end of the year. And lucky that time I didn't make my mistake. I took my profits, and yeah, you know, I guess the rest is history. But yeah, I considered it, and I was just like, no, genuinely, I thought I'd be bored. But the beautiful thing is there's no right or wrong answer. You don't need to be an empire builder. You don't need to be a lifestyle business owner. Like you can do whatever you want. And that's the beautiful thing. Let info serve whatever goals you want. If you want to have info to have 10 million liquid in the bank and then live your life and enjoy it. And by the way, when I say liquid, you know what I'm talking about, right? By the end of the week, liquid net worth as in like after fire sale prices. If you need to sell your stocks, if you need to sell your crypto, if you need to sell, I mean, there's liquidity in the market for that, but like stuff there isn't as much liquidity as like a $300,000 watch or $400,000 car. Of course, you just knock off 35% even to be safe. And there is a market for it for a fire sale price. Or even, for example, license plates and stuff like that. You knock off 40% and there is a fire sale price. You properties even, 40% off. Fire sale, you will get your money. Once you get to that number, you can either decide, am I going to chill and enjoy my life, and am I going to go in empire building mode? And that's the decision I made, empire building mode. But I think all that to say, the reason I bring up this and I keep hammering this point home is info is not empire building. That's the truth of it. Info is not empire building. And I just see these people in the info space that delude themselves into thinking like, I'm going to build this massive $1 billion company, blah, blah. And I'm like, every single info business I know from 5 years ago, there's very, very few examples. The only examples I can think of is Agora Financial. If you don't know about them, they're like the GOAT info business, which is also they're faceless. They're more a publishing syndicate, so they publish newsletter. It's the craziest business. If you don't know about Agora, like just look into Agora. But they're a unique example. They've been around since the 70s, and they're a unique example. And to be honest, they've had a lot of issues, for example, with FTC, and like I would not want to model my business off of them. In all honesty, even though obviously they print a crap ton of cash. Who else is still around from a decade ago? Tony Robbins, but once again, that proves my point. It makes great money, of course, but it's not a sellable asset. It's his brand. And there's nothing wrong with that. I guess Grant Cardone, but once again, it's not a sellable asset. It's his brand. So the idea that people have that they're going to build this billion-dollar info business is just like, it's wrong. I always like people to have good expectations. Now, bear in mind, AFL, we help info businesses. So I could sit here and say, info will make you a billionaire. This is in my worst interest, to be honest with you guys. But I just want to be honest rather than all these other people. They're deluding you into thinking you're going to sell your info business. No, you're not. And number two, deluding you into telling you their revenue numbers when their revenue numbers are irrelevant. Tell me your profit. Tell me how much you're cashing. If it's a lifestyle business, which that's what info is, it's a lifestyle business. So you can drive a Lamborghini like that guy if you want, or if you don't. Once again, that's great. Like I had made tens of millions of dollars before I ever bought a car, because I just didn't care. I lived in London, I didn't care. But at that point, I'd spent millions of dollars already on watches. So once again, beautiful thing. There's no right or wrong answer. And that's the other funny thing I see as well, is like I see some of these info people and they're like, reinvest in the business. That's another one that like pisses me off. When someone tells me their revenue and they tell me reinvest in their business, it's the two red flags that I know that they don't know what they're talking about. At that point, I stopped listening to their info advice, because I'm like, my guy, you're saying you need cash on hand to reinvest in the business. Now it's a different story if you're like, I need cash on hand to deploy into other ventures, to the empire building. But they're like, no, just focus on your info business and reinvest. It's like, okay, what does your CapEx look like? What does your fixed cost look like? Okay, you get a videographer. Well, listen, within 6 months, your videographer should make more than you spend. Okay, I put that money into ads. We both know that within 30 to 60 days, those ads should be profitable, or you shouldn't be running ads in the first place. So what are you spending money on? You're like, oh yeah, I need $4 million in the business bank to like reinvest in business. What are you reinvesting in? What? It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And thank God in 2018, I did not listen to this stupid advice, because I would be in the position of a lot of these other people, like, keep the money in the business, reinvest in business. Okay, cool. Well, it's been 4 years now. I don't need to work ever again a day in my life because I didn't listen to that advice. Oh, you should focus on this, and a single-minded focus. Okay, well, I spend an hour to 2 hours a day on my info business. I have a great C-suite team that have profit share in my company. They're incentivized to run the thing for me. Of course, if there's no such thing as passive income, of course, I still need to think about. Of course, there's things that I need to come in and do. But them having profit share allows me to then go and focus on my billion-dollar plays. And is everything I invest in and everything I do going to be a billion-dollar play? No, not at all. You know, you're going to have to strike out 4 times for your one home run. And that's the truth of it when you're building real, genuine, big businesses. Listen, it's no secret. Everyone knows that I've made close to $100 million with info. Okay, it's like no secret. Once again, with low ticket, mid ticket, and high ticket, I've done all of it. So I'm actually allowed to speak on this stuff. Unlike some of these people who are like, I've only ever done high ticket, and then they're telling you to do low ticket subscription. You're like, shut up. That's not how you made your money. Like, why are you telling me to do something you have never done or validated in your entire life? So anyways, I could sit here and say like, oh, info, it's a business that you're gonna sell, or it's a business that's like a real, could turn into a billion-dollar play. No, I'm saying here right now, it's a great cash flow business. It's also a business where you have to have 3 out of 10 skill set. And I also know that it's a business that's just very easy. It's very easy to make a lot of cash. And I don't think it makes you like this a world-class entrepreneur, which is why I realized that I decided I'm gonna get what I wanna get out of info, and then I'm gonna go into empire building mode. So all that to say, as I'm pulling up, I just want you guys to just be very careful to the advice that you listen to out there. What they do basically is they take concepts that actually work in billion-dollar companies, reinvest in the business, blah, blah, all this other stuff, and then they apply it to a cash flow business. And those are 2 different models. I hope that's been helpful. Hopefully it opens your eyes. I know all the behind the scenes numbers, and it breaks my heart to see when people model off of stuff that, quite frankly, just doesn't work and is horrible advice for this specific business model. So love you guys. And once again, as always, rooting for you.